off, stuck his jock strap in. They worked an entire spot around sticking his jock strap in Trent's face. And then they ducked the jock strap. I don't think those words have ever been uttered in the ring before. And then he sticks it in Olivier's face once again, probably a familiar scent. Olivier probably thinks it's like Purdy Flowers. The only talent in this match is Trent. The only worthwhile professional wrestling talent in this match is Trent, and he's the one with the jockstrap in his fucking face. And then he usually gets beat, but in this case, he got the pin. They beat knock it the fuck off with their double team thing, but he got the pin here, but only when Chuck Taylor did his fucking pissy little stomp off the top rope that missed and did the damage. This was hot garbage. This was worse than the one-legged man. And then to put the icing on this fucking cake of shit, this feces sundae, they all hugged each other then in the middle after doing all that shit to each other. Brian Last, have you ever hugged a motherfucker that shoved his sweaty jockstrap in your face?
No, and especially not after he's covered in oil.
And that's where I turned the TV off, because it ain't worth watching this shit. So I don't care what the fuck else they did. Fucking embarrassment. And for all you people who have tried to take up for this fucking guy, I hope you're suitably chastened. Once again, Cornette was right all along. Give him enough rope and he'll hang himself. He's exposed himself on national TV. This is the greatest wrestling artist in the world. He's a fucking goof, a pretentious twat, and a sissy. He's a sissy, Lance. After watching that, I just wish there was something to make me feel better mentally. I wish that there was somebody that I could talk to, talk me down off this cliff or the bell tower that I'm in.
I could talk to you.
Well, you just stir me up. You know who I could talk to? I could talk to the folks that a lot of the Cult of Cornette listeners have been speaking to over the past few months. And in these days, if you're not like me, if you just could be closed up in a space and not have any human interaction for long periods of time and be fine like me, then you're okay. But if you're going stir crazy, you need somebody to talk to, or you have any problems that pre-existed the quarantine and the pandemic, and you just need somebody to talk to for counseling or therapy, you don't have a place to go in your hometown, you don't have a place to go because you live out in the woods, and the only therapist is your cousin, we got somebody can help you out. BetterHelp. We've talked about them before. They're back. BetterHelp, H-E-L-P. Of course, how else would you spell help? Is a professional counseling service. I'll say this quickly. Professional counseling service that is done securely online, either on the phone or via the internet. Video sessions, phone sessions. You don't have to sit in a waiting room. You don't have to go through the problem of finding someone that you have access to, that you can easily make an appointment with or with insurance or whatever. It's a professional, secure online service where you can talk to people that maybe can help you with your problems. And we've had a number of the Cult of Cornette listeners, Brian, that have written in and said that they did indeed do that and they did indeed help.
That's right. And I think right now, specifically with so many people at home and so many people dealing with unemployment, which is, just horrifying. I just saw another, 6.5 million people filed for unemployment this week, or last week, I guess. There's a lot of people going through a lot of things, a lot of people worried about how they're going to pay for their bills and just live as society shuts down around them. And it's a really good time if you need someone to talk to. You definitely can't go to a therapist's office.
Well, yeah, I didn't even think. Fuck, if you don't want to go to a therapist's office because there's other people there. This is even better now. BetterHelp is even better yet. And we've said it before. You can go to BetterHelp.com/JCE. They're always slashing me. BetterHelp.com/JCE and get 10% off of your first month's services. BetterHelp.com/JCE. Join the over 800,000 people and counting that are taking charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional, and you can go to the website as well and read the reviews and the testimonials that are posted daily from people that have been helped by BetterHelp to start living a happier life. So we encourage you, especially if you've just watched a Kenny Omega match and you got to have somebody to talk to try to get it out of your mind. BetterHelp.com/JCE, 10% off. I'll even help pay you for your therapy if you have watched Kenny Olivier try to wrestle.
You know, I know they had some embarrassing battle royals and stuff, but I put it on Twitter. I think this was the single worst match in AEW history because it was on TV. It went a while. It was stupid. I mean, so much of it's stupid, but just Michael Nakazawa's worthless. You bring everyone in that match down, and in some cases you can't bring them down any further. Trent has talent. Chuck Taylor's awful in the ring. I was actually just trying to watch what he's doing. Not very good in the ring as a wrestler. It was just the most embarrassing and awful match. I can't believe it got on the air. They had nothing but time to edit and pick and choose what gets on TV versus what gets on YouTube. And they chose MJF and Wardlow. I guess maybe they taped that a few weeks ago. That was on the YouTube show. This is what they chose to put here on TV. They deserve to lose viewers because of this. This was the most embarrassing, awful piece of shit match. Tony Khan needs to have his head examined for allowing Kenny Omega any creative control whatsoever outside of his matches. Let him do whatever he wants to do in his matches. Those are the Kenny Omega matches, singles matches. Don't let him bring his friends on board. Don't let anyone hire any more friends. Period. Or friends at Dallas Page, if we're just going to add people to this list. But that match
Nobody that knows anybody should be allowed to work for All Elite Wrestling.
That match was embarrassing. They should all be embarrassed. And the only thing that made any of it worth watching was Jericho and Shivani on commentary. But there's only so much they can do. But that was awful. That was just god-awful garbage. And you're lucky you turned off the show. You missed Matt Hardy doing one of his wacky community theater promos in his garage. Challenging Chris Jericho to an elite deletion match. But it was just awful. Cody had a match with Shawn Spears. I just did not give a shit about that match after watching this Nakazawa match. This was embarrassing. Not even to get off the fact, I hate WWE interviews where no one can see the camera. So now these guys are in their trailer. They don't see the camera there. They're discussing what tag team names they want to name themselves. All of a sudden, Chuck and Bo
Buck, Banana Fanta,
Chuck and
Trent,
and Orange Cassidy walk in and they say, "We heard what you guys were talking about. How did you hear that? Were you outside the window of their trailer?" And no one pays attention to the camera. This was so awful and so bad. Ugh, just awful. It made me hate AEW and not want to watch the rest of the show, which I did because I thought you would watch the rest of the show.
No, because I had the same fucking response. I don't want to watch any more of this after that. I have better things to do with my time, which is fill the orders at Cornette's Collectibles. And see, you should have said all that on the other side of the fucking BetterHelp spot. We'll just put it together on YouTube. It'll be.
That's what I'm going to do. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Awful. Everyone involved in that match should be embarrassed, but they won't be because they don't know any better.
That's the thing. They will not be embarrassed because they think they're being revolutionary and cutting edge and fucking spiffy and fun and silly and whatever the fuck.
What's fun for you may not be fun to watch.
Hey, some people like to have their balls nailed to a step stool, from what I've been told.
I understand that'll be on next week's episode. They've taped a bunch of shows.
Yeah.
Jimmy Havoc nails his balls to a step stool next week on AEW.
You know, you shouldn't have said that because now you know that fucking idiot will do it. Ay. All right, are we done with this program?
For this week, yes.
All right, very good. Because
Now, one last thing before we move on from Wednesday night. There was another match. I haven't seen it yet. I have it on my DVR. On NXT, apparently, they did another one of these movie, theatrical, cinematic matches with Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, the final blow-off to their long feud / friendship at times. And unlike the Firefly Funhouse match and the Boneyard match, this actually took place in a ring, in an empty arena, with a referee. I haven't watched it yet, and I'm going to assume under professional wrestling rules. So that may be something worth watching to see how these cinematic matches work if you're actually doing it to a wrestling match versus just a wacky cemetery brawl or whatever the hell.
Just a bad Bruce Pritchard nightmare after a fucking Mexican dinner.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you have it on your DVR, but that may be
I will arrange to watch this cinematic masterpiece by the time we do the drive-through this weekend.
Okay, that sounds good.
Especially if you send me a link to it.
I'll see what I could do.
Well, there you go. We got ways. We know people. Anyway, speaking of knowing people, I want to say this real quick. We're going to get to the Kevin Sullivan interview, but I want to thank everybody for the great response to my appearance on the Brawl for All episode of Dark Side of the Ring on Vice. As we know, Dark Side of the Ring airs every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on Vice TV, and I have been involved already in a couple of them, and you'll probably see me popping up a time or two again. But I trended on Twitter again, and this time just for not doing anything bad. But I have apparently, from the comments, been vindicated after all these years. Now that people have seen Shitstain talk about wrestling in his natural habitat, with that voice and that face and the whole package, people are astonished that I didn't strangle him 20 years ago. I've never seen such people are saying things about Shitstain that I've never even dreamed of saying. And I'm writing a lot of them down because I'm going to steal them. But God, I've never seen one television program make a motherfucker so unpopular. So thank everybody for your feedback. And now you see what I was fucking dealing with. But we wanted to talk a little bit about the Dark Side of the Ring episode. Just in what they've only got to 45 minutes, and they could have just showed me talking about the whole thing for 45 minutes, and it wouldn't have been as exciting visually, but you'd had a lot more of the details. But I wanted to go over a couple things that I think they left out time-wise, possibly interest-wise. The biggest problem to me, well, let's start at the start. Not whose idea was it, but who inspired Vince Russo to come up with this idea? Because he's saying now, he's been telling for the last few years that I heard that John Bradshaw Layfield in the catering or wherever, and he was talking about how tough he was. And I wanted to see somebody knock him out. He says he started this whole fiasco because he wanted to see Bradshaw get fucking punched out and embarrassed. And when the guys that Jason Eisner and Evan Husney were down here were taping, they asked me, and this part was edited out. I said, I can't put it past him for a stupid reason like that. And that's why I said, can you imagine being intellectually and morally bankrupt enough to go through all this just to embarrass a fucking bully? But like a lot of Russo's stories, it doesn't pan out. The timeline doesn't work. There's not a lot of evidence to support it. And it wasn't told until years after the fact. Now, the reason why I can't totally discount it is because with Russo, you never know. At that point in time, especially, he'd only been in the fucking locker room for a year. He might have heard the guys fucking around with each other and bought it and thought they were serious because he was that much of a mark. But Bradshaw was, even if he was a bully, and it seems like this story has only popped up over the last few years when stories about Bradshaw bullying people became fashionable, right? That's when Russo started telling him, well, I wanted to get even with that bully. But, Brian, the year was 1998. Bradshaw could not have been a bully then, even if he was a bully. He was just out of not even barely out of the new Blackjacks, for fuck's sake. He had only been in the company for 2 years. He'd come in, he'd already had a couple of gimmick changes. He was an underneath guy, not knocking his talent or whatever the fuck, but he was being used in the middle of the card, if that, with no established real strong gimmick. And there was nobody. And plus he's in a locker room with fucking Dan Severn and Steve Blackman and Ken Shamrock. And at that time, John Bradshaw Layfield was not going to be a bully to anybody. And I was around him a lot at that point. Not only did I've never had a problem with Bradshaw, but I never saw that at that time, especially where he was even ribbing anybody